Joining us now is Andrew Obin, equity research analyst at BofA, who covers the industrial space. Welcome.
Thanks so much.
When you hear data centers in space, does it make you laugh, shake your head, or go, yeah, this is actually what's coming, and we're starting to think about the build-out for this already?
Well, at first I thought it was bunkers.
Yeah.
And then when you dig in, you actually realize that there are very specific developments that are driving the narrative. And we think it's going to be front and center for investors over the next 12 to 24 months. And that's why we wrote the report that we did.
What are the developments that make this not a science fiction narrative, but a real possibility?
Yeah, sure thing. It may still be a science fiction narrative, right? But let's step back. So the real constraint of the world, we're running out of electricity. Our point is that even without the AI, because of electrification, the U.S. was not going to have enough capacity to meet the demand, right? So right now, if you want to build a data center, you have to get in line, you have to get your grid connection. On top of it, the regulators now want you to do things to the data center because data centers are incredibly disruptive to the grid. So, why are people thinking about space? Space is cold.
There's no NIMBY issues?
Well, that's exactly right. It's much less regulation, right? So you escape regulation. There's plenty of sunshine. You can generate 8 to 10 times the energy from sun that you can on Earth, and it's cold, right? So you don't have to worry about cooling. So why all of a sudden there are these headlines? So the magic number, the way the math works, is that operating data centers, not just electricity availability, it's also expensive. So 40% of operating cost of a data center is electricity.
Wow.
And what's happening, the magic number, if you can launch things at space at $200 per kilo, all of a sudden the math starts working that the cost of launch equals the value of all the electricity that you're going to consume.
Is this purely hypothetical, or are there people who have kind of a proven capability to go and do this?
Well, so this is where it gets interesting. So if you look at the developments, there is a project, there's a Star Cloud project. It was launched in October. And NVIDIA talked about it. Now, this is one GPU launched in space. I think it's like 1 kW.
A small step for man.
It's a very small step. More important step, there was also a Suncatcher paper out of Google. So that got a lot of people's attention. But the most important thing is that it's what's taking place at SpaceX, right? And you have Starship Block 3 that's going to become operational next year. And that actually is supposed to get you on this path of getting to 200 per kilo by the end of the decade, right? And in fact, Musk is also talking about Starlink V3 having this AI capability. So all of a sudden, it went from well-known science fiction, and by the way, people were talking about since 1940s, right?
It's always like 2 steps ahead. It's fascinating to watch how this could all. Tell me which other companies. Obviously, we might have a SpaceX IPO next year. This will be a big narrative in that. Who else in your coverage space, if I said, I just want to get invested in this now to potentially benefit from any upside here?
Look, so we have a different analyst who covers that entire complex. But for us, the reason we wrote the report, because we actually started to get inbound calls. It was more like, who's going to get out of business? Who's going to get driven out of business because of that?
Right. Is it time to abandon all the data centers?
That's exactly right. Do you need electricity? Do you need power? So our takeaway is that there's still plenty to do on planet Earth. Right.
How reassuring.
Right. And, there is a timeline. And I think realistically, we've spoken to some CEOs in our coverage. And people think it's more 2035, 2040, where it becomes at scale. So the most interesting thing that we looked at it as a threat to the existing infrastructure. But the reality, if you look at the Star Cloud project, right, still has CDUs. You still need to cool the chips. You still need to process the electricity.
Heard that, yeah.
And what's also interesting, on top of it, you have to dump this heat into space, which actually becomes a very sophisticated engineering problem because it's vacuum.
They're playing the music. Like, we don't want to hear about dumping the heat in space, Andrew. This is supposed to solve all of our problems. In all seriousness, it's a great report.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us.